I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We have some folks still trickling in, but that's okay. We are just going to start off, and I want to welcome everybody. Thank you guys for joining us this evening or late afternoon, depending upon where you are in the world or United States, I suppose. My name is Mari Prower. I am the Senior Assistant Dean of Admission at Colgate. I predominantly work with students from the states of Connecticut and Rhode Island, as well as the Indian subcontinent, which makes no sense in any way, shape, or form. I am joined by three wonderful students who are really going to be doing all the legwork because this is a panel about students. So I'm going to actually have them introduce themselves first, and then I'll give a little background and we'll get into it. At any point throughout the webinar, if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function. I would prefer that you guys use the Q&A over the chat. It's just a little bit easier to monitor that way, but feel free to drop any questions at any time that you have for any of these students. So Emily, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Cruz Gonzalez. I'm a senior from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm double majoring in computer science and English. On campus, I'm involved with Latin America Student Organization, the Colgate Coders, and admissions. So, yeah.
Haley, you want to go next?
Had to find my mute button. Hi, everyone. My name is Haley Taylor. I am also a senior from the Bronx. On campus, I am an educational studies major and a psychology minor, and I'm a part of Sisters of the Round Table, which is our club for women of color, as well as working in admissions and in the Alana Cultural Center.
Awesome. And Danny.
All right, everyone. My name is Danny Arias. I'm from Huntington, New York. I'm majoring in psychology on the pre-med track, and the organizations I'm on in campus is Sisters of the Round Table and Brothers.
Awesome. So how the session is going to work, we're going to take about 30 or so minutes to sort of do a panel in a sense where I'm going to ask our panelists some questions. And again, then we'll leave about 15 to 20 minutes for any questions that you guys have. So again, feel free to drop those at any time. 15 to 20 minutes at the end will be when I just said that, when we go through your guys' questions. And Haley is also has already dropped all of our contact information. So if we don't get to any of your questions or you want to follow up with any of the panelists afterwards, feel free to email any of us afterwards. So just to give you guys kind of a brief background of sort of what Colgate represents, we have about 3,000 undergraduate students. We do have 12 graduate students, but about 3,000 undergraduate students. And we truly are a global community. 22% of our student body identify as students of color, 15% are international students, and 9% are first generation college students. So that's a bit of a background. I don't want to go too much into that because I do want to save all of our time for getting to the questions. So we're going to get right to it. And panelists, I just want to kind of hear about how you guys made your decision to attend Colgate. So Emily, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, so when I got accepted to Colgate, I came to visit in April for Colgate Experience Days, and I flew out, did an overnight, and when I didn't really know much about Colgate or like its surrounding areas, so that was really a good opportunity for me to see the campus and meet people on there. And I guess one of the things I liked about it was how small it was. All the people I met were super nice, and they were so helpful and answered a million questions about living in the Northeast and Colgate and everything to do with that. So that's kind of like what drew me to Colgate at the end of it all.
Haley, you want to go next?
Sure. I actually did something a little risque, and I didn't visit Colgate at all until I was moving in as a first year. I liked Colgate because, I mean, it looked pretty, and I also knew I wanted to go like small liberal arts school, and it's pretty, it's like not too far from the city, so I can like drive if I needed to. And so I knew that I wanted to go to a school like Colgate, and then I actually got it narrowed down to a couple of schools, and I had to reach out to them for an appeal, and then Colgate was way more understanding during my appeals process, and they were way more willing to work with me, and they like kept doing it still when I was like a first year and sophomore. And so then I thought that was like a little more community oriented, and I thought I could see myself better at a place like Colgate.
And Danny, what about you?
So similar to Emily, I went to go visit Colgate in April, and I had done an overnight, and I was part of this group for like this thing called OUS, Office of Undergraduate Studies, and so when I went to the house. I had met a lot of current OUS students, and they were all super nice, and like I really like was able to bond with like all of them, and just like that like made me feel like Colgate was a home to me. So that's why like I chose Colgate, because like that community was super nice, similar to like what Emily had said.
So the next question is, what was your transition like from high school to Colgate, and what was something that you didn't expect? Danny, I'm going to turn it right back to you.
All right. So like something that I didn't expect was the workload, because like going from like high school where like everything was like super easy, everything was given to you. You go to college, so and like basically I had to like read a ton of homework. I had to write a ton of essays, and just like the workload was something that I wasn't used to. And yeah, that was something I didn't really expect.
Haley?
For me, and I feel like this doesn't sound that believable, but to me it was how big Colgate was, because I went to two high schools, and one of them was like just over 1,000 students, which was huge to me, and then my second high school was about 300 students, and so coming to Colgate, I was like 2,800 is small for college, but still huge to me. Um, so it was a little daunting at first, but I think that like joining clubs, like I was talking about earlier, really kind of helped me to make it a little smaller and more approachable, but I was definitely not ready to be living with 3,000 other people.
And Emily, what about you?
Yeah, similar to Danny, it was kind of like the less amount of structure there was and how much independence there was and how much you had to put the responsibility on yourself to actually do the work. And just classes themselves were just so structured differently than they were in my high school. Like exams were different, essays were different, and it was just adjusting to that whole cycle.
So the next question is, how have you made Colgate your place in your home, and what groups or organizations on campus have helped you with that transition? Haley, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Sorry, I'm just making sure I understood correctly. As far as organizations go, I think student organizations have played like a really big part for me in making Colgate feel like home. I remember like as soon as I got to campus, I like found like the first Black older student that I could find, and I was like, okay, what clubs do you think I should join? And it gave me basically a list of clubs to join, and I'm pretty much still in all of those clubs, or like still visit or still have friends and like go occasionally. And so that's been a big help for me, and it also helped me to like meet older students who like would give me some tips and advice from time to time, and just to feel a little grounded, because like I said, it was a really big community for me at first.
And Emily, what about you?
For me, a lot of it, I think two organizations really helped me a lot, was the Fresh Gen program. Like I found all my friends through that program. I'm still friends with them till now. I'm going to be living with them. And it just provided me a community with people who were going through similar experiences as me, and a support system, and as well as the common system. I was in the same commons for 3 years. Like my junior year, I was only there for a semester, and I was a community leader on campus, and I got to be a community leader on the commons that I had lived in, and so that was really nice.
Do you want to give just a brief explanation about what the common system is and what a community leader is?
Yeah, so the common system is all first years and sophomores are a part of the commons, around 200 for each year, and there you can live in the same commons for both years, but you can switch around. But they're basically just a group of buildings that come together and put on different like events. Like we had dinner talk series with professors. We would also do like brunches on the weekends, and as well as like spa nights, or like I think one night we did like boba tea. So it's just like different events that you can come together, and they're led by different professors. And the professors that led my commons, such as Hancock Commons, was Pilar, who was a Spanish professor, and her husband, Professor Vera, who was a history professor. And a community leader is what Colgate calls RAs. So
Perfect, thank you. And Danny, what about you? I'll repeat the question in case folks forgot what we were talking about before. How have you made Colgate your home, and what groups and organizations have kind of helped you with that transition?
So OUS had like really helped me make feel Colgate like home, because like I said, like some of the people that I met in April when I visited, like I'm still friends with them, and I have met even more people through the OUS program. So like they really like made me feel like home. Like I feel like I'm like it's like a real community over there. And also like some organizations that like have helped me have been like Brothers and like Sisters of the Round Table, because I'm communicating with people that like have been through similar experiences with me, and which I like actually like it's not like, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, that just like helped me feel at home.
Awesome. So the next question is, what kind of support and resources are available to students of color, and how have you taken advantage of them? Emily, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Yeah, I feel like we've mentioned a few of them throughout like our different experiences. So like First Gen is one of the resources that I have, and then not just like specific resources like finances and like books and stuff, but also like the community and the emotional support that they provide, as well as the various multicultural clubs that we have on campus. Like the one I'm in is Latin America Student Organization, and they meet like every week, and it just provides a space for students from Latin America to meet together and bond.
Haley, what about you?
I think definitely echoing Emily's sentiments about the clubs. I can't stress enough how like good they are, because it's all student run, and so you get to meet a lot of people. But I think that I really relied on like faculty, staff, older students of color at Colgate, and I didn't really know how easy it would be to find them. But like, as eager as you are to meet other people of color on campus, like so are the faculty and staff, and maybe even more so because they are in Hamilton more than you are. Like, they've been here for a little longer, so they're always eager to meet and help. So I literally will just like see a professor, and I'll like maybe at a talk or something, and I'll be like, I have never met that person, and I go walk up to them and say like, hey, like I've heard like you teach in this department, like it'd be great to talk to you. And they will always give you their office hours, always give you their office extension, and will always help you out with anything that you need. And so it's really nice to be able to meet faculty and staff that aren't just your professors, even though I also am very close with my professors.
Awesome. And Danny, what about you?
OUS was like a big, like they're like a big support group. So like whenever like I'm in need, they're always there for me. Like they treat everybody like family, and like it like just like makes me like so happy that I have them, because I don't know who else I would actually turn to. I mean, I have a lot of friends who are like very supportive too, but like yeah, it's just like OUS, like it's just so much. It's like family to me, and like it's like something like I never like really like. I don't know. I don't like know how to explain it, but yeah, it's just like yeah. Even though like I don't know, but yeah.
Oh, that's good. So the next question is, how would you summarize your experience as a student of color at Colgate? Emily, I'm going to go back to you on this one. I'm popping all around.
Yeah, so I think it's very differing for each student, but for me, it was a weird transition because I went to a predominantly Hispanic Latinx high school, and so Colgate was very different, which is predominantly white, and I wasn't used to that like whole like racial difference, and so it was very intimidating at first because I've never really interacted with other white students, and it was just me trying to find a space where I felt like I belonged on this campus. And there was also that whole layer of like the imposter syndrome of like, oh, should I actually be here? And like, how do I act? Like, I had trouble speaking up in classes, but like, it's something that you work through as you, and especially like the community and like talking to other students of color and talking to professors and stuff. It's something that you have to work through.
Haley, what about you?
I think that my experience has definitely been a little challenging. Similar to Emily, the high school that I graduated from was also not very white. It was mostly like Black and brown students, and the high school I went to before that was predominantly white, and I also left it, so I was a little nervous when I came to Colgate. And I think that like being a student of color, I was a little anxious, so I kind of like tried to occupy all my time like meeting other students of color to like have some familiarity, and that I think takes a lot of energy because I still had to do my classwork and I still had to do that. And so I think I was always kind of like, for my first year a little bit, I was kind of like always on edge or trying to anticipate or like meet these needs before I could even figure out what I was missing. And that took a little bit of energy out of me. I think now I'm definitely more used to it, and I kind of appreciate some of the spaces that I've like been able to cultivate, but I know that it was like more out of necessity than like I just stumbled into it.
And Danny, what about you?
I came from like a diverse high school, so like I wasn't like really able to like face the experiences I had, but like all like something that like really helped me though were the student organizations like Brother and Sort, because like basically these are like clubs that like are people who have like been who are like of similar backgrounds, who like have been like through some similar experience with you. And so basically it's just like having them there, like having them whenever you need them, like to talk to them, like has been very helpful and a lot for like better. It's been a lot for me. It's been helpful.
Awesome. So we have a lot of questions coming in. So my final question for our panelists that I have is, what advice would you give to incoming first-year students, and what advice do you wish you had been given when you were either applying or during your first year on campus? Danny, I'm going to start with you because you're the freshest, most recent first year.
So I mean, something I would like probably like would have needed, like some advice I would need is like prepare for that workload, and like also like prepare like for like some of like the things you're gonna like see at Colgate, like with the amount of like white people there are. Because even though I did come from a diverse high school, like I had never like really seen this much white people at one place at a time. So that was really something. So like no, but yeah, it's just like to my main point though, the workload. It's just like hitting the library, like get ready to like probably not fall asleep till like pretty late. But yeah, I'd just say hit the library and everything like that. And so, and something I would have probably told myself was just like get ready for what you're gonna like face at Colgate, like with the workload and like with the people there. Just like be open, just be open and try to like make new friends so you could try to like so you could like have people to talk to and everything.
Awesome. Haley, what about you?
Oh my goodness, there's so much. I think that when I was a first year, I think Emily said it best, like imposter syndrome. I never really like realized how pervasive it could be. And so I think that I wish someone had told me that like I am capable of doing the things that I like intended to do when I got to Colgate. And like I am capable, like you're capable of pushing back against the institution, like telling it what you need and like getting what you deserve from it. But I also wish that someone had told me to also kind of relax sometimes, and that like I am still a student first. Like I think that a lot of students of color find themselves doing a lot of organizing at Colgate and like advocating for Colgate to be better. And I think that's really important. And I think a lot of us are motivated because we know that like it could be better and we want it to be better, especially for future students, but also like taking breaks because, you know, that's not a paid position. Like a lot of us have our classes, our clubs, and our jobs. So like remembering that you're also a person and you need sleep. You're here to get your degree primarily. So like remembering that as much as you should push back and you should fight, you should also like have your limits and like know how to check in with yourself to be able to say, okay, I need to rest for a little bit.
That's great. And Emily, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like this is something that a lot of people tell people, but it's something I didn't take seriously. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, I felt like coming as a first generation college student, and my parents don't speak any English, I was very independent and I did a lot of things on my own. And so I felt like I needed to be that way in college as well. But it was like, I would have definitely benefited my first semester if I had asked for help, especially like tutoring wise or just going to office hours, because I know that was like an intimidating experience for me at first. So don't be afraid to talk to professors. Don't be afraid to ask your classmates for help or like do study groups and stuff like that. And echoing what Haley said, don't try to do too much, because I know people who try to get involved in like 10 different clubs and then they just get burned out halfway through the semester. Like I understand, like there's this whole thing of like, oh, this is all new and I want to go and do all these things, but it's like know your limits and know what you can and can't do.
So we have a ton of excellent questions and I'm going to try to get to all of them. I'm just going to start in the order that they came in, but again, continue to submit them. So panelists, just feel free to jump in and answer if you guys would like to. So the first question is, do you feel protected by Colgate as an institution, and how does Colgate deal with racist incidents?
I mean, obviously I can't speak for every student. I think that Colgate definitely could do a little better when it comes to racist incidents, although I'm not really an investigator, so I don't actually know like what protocol should be. But I think that a lot of times we ask the question is like, why has it happened more than once? Like there must be something that we should change about how we're handling it. I think that I generally do feel protected by Colgate's institution because I think I have a lot of personal relationships. Like I have like a dean that I'm very close with, or like I have faculty that I'm very close with, but those tend to also be people of color that I like in the administration that I look to and that I trust. So I guess that I'm also speaking from the bias perspective where it's only like the people that I know that I feel protected by, but I wouldn't say that I don't feel like supported or anything at Colgate.
Anyone else want to answer that, or this is a great answer. So next question is, can people of other races and ethnicities join the multicultural events and clubs? I think the short answer is of course. It looks like Emily wants to answer that.
Yeah, they can definitely join all the different clubs and organizations. Everyone is welcome. I know for LASO, Latin American Student Organization, everyone from every like race, ethnicity is welcome into our club, and I know it's the same for like all the other multicultural clubs as well.
So this next student wants to thank you all for your time first. But if you could adjust or add something to Colgate to better the community for students of color, what would you do? So if there's something you could add or change or adjust to make the community for students of color on campus, what would it be?
I can answer. I don't want to cut anyone off. But I personally feel very strongly about the core curriculum. I'm not sure if y'all have heard of it, because like I said, like I didn't visit Colgate at all, so I didn't know what that was when I first got here. But it's like a set of 4 classes that every single Colgate student has to take, and they have taken it for generations and generations back. And I wish that the core curriculum was like way more inclusive of like, or I wish that it would challenge a lot more social ideas, because right now it's like you take a scientific perspectives class and a communities and identities class, and those are both great, and then you take 2 set classes called legacies of the ancient world and challenges of modernity. And I wish that those ones, I wish that they brought up more social issues and had people interrogate them more closely, because I think when you're a first year, everyone is new to the community. So I wish that we were able to talk about that, because I think then that might give us better tools to handle like challenging when like a racist incident occurs in the community, or possibly even preventing them from happening. I just wish it was maybe more sociology oriented.
So yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Just like adding on to that, like with core classes, like at least like make one like social justice class, so like people could like understand and like also like question like why these like racist, like I don't know like how to word it, but like just like try to like go against these, and like try not to like be oblivious to like things that go around you. And yeah, I don't know, just like add that like social justice course, and like have like more like books like by people of color to the curriculum. That would be good.
We had another question come in that's really similar to what we're talking about right now. And the question is, do you think that your curriculums are diversified enough with proper POC representation, such as recognition within medical history? Is there anybody else that, I think you guys did a really good job of answering that, but is there anything else you want to add in about the curriculum? Okay, great. Hopefully that answers your question. So the next question is, do you feel your culture or social identity group is well represented throughout campus and in the curriculum? So a lot of curriculum questions. So I guess, yeah.
I guess I'll speak to the curriculum part of that. I think it just depends on the classes you take, because there are a variety of different classes that you can take on campus. Like on my English major side, there's a lot of classes that like I'm gonna take an African literature class this semester, and I was trying to get into like a like colonization class, but it conflicted, and it just varies on what you want to do. And I mean the core curriculum, as we spoke earlier, there does need to be more diversity in that aspect of it all.
Anyone else want to respond to if you feel like your cultural social identity group is well represented? Okay, you guys have already touched on that a little bit. So the next question is just talk about, the question is, are there many professors or faculty of color? So maybe just talk about what the faculty presence is like of faculty of color on campus. Haley, I know you touched on that a little bit earlier. I don't want to call you out at all, but I know that you did talk about that a little bit.
No, I was trying to think because I don't think I know like an exact statistic or like a number. But I think that honestly, I think it does depend on the department. I think that a lot of certain departments have more faculty of color, and those are the ones that I interact with more. So I can't speak for everything, but I know like educational studies, LGBTQ plus studies, women's studies. I think that they all have more faculty of color, as well as like different cultural studies departments, like African and Latin American studies. But I think that there are some departments that are like that don't have as many faculty of color. But I think that, like that's why I kind of like reach out to other professors, but I don't know like every major statistic, so I'm sorry.
Well, Haley, you're fired then. No, that's great. Yeah. So the next question is, are there biracial or multiracial resources and affinity groups? Danny and Haley and Emily, you guys actually have all kind of touched on that a little bit. Do one of you maybe just want to like run through what some of those affinity groups are on campus again?
Yeah, so I think we have like 20 multicultural clubs on campus. So we have Sisters of the Round Table, Brothers, Latin American Student Organization, BSU, Black Student Union. There's so many.
A whole bunch of others.
USA.
Yeah, so there's quite a few. And again, go ahead, Haley.
I was going to say, I don't remember if there's a specific biracial one, but I also work in Alana, and I can make a note. Alana's a cultural center. I can make a note to ask right now.
So feel free to follow up with Haley then afterwards.
Yes.
Great. So this is a good question. Is there any advice that you have for students? Well, the question is there any advice for applying to Colgate as a person of color? Do you have any advice as far as the application process goes? If you can remember back to that. I know Emily and Haley, you guys are old now, so.
Yeah. No, I think it's just being your, like, I don't know if the difference is like just being your authentic self and writing, and when you're writing your like personal essay and doing your short questions, speaking to your identity and to your true self. I think that's important. And don't be afraid to reach out to your admissions officer and start that conversation with them, because they can be very helpful resource for you.
I want to echo that as an admission officer who reads applications. I think Emily gave the exact right advice. Just really tell us who you are. The best way for us to get to know you is through those writing sections. I really enjoy reading essays, and I can tell you my 10 favorite essays off the top of my head that I've read over the past few years or so. And that's really, truly where we get to know about who you are. Tell us about something that you feel like is going to help us get to know you as a person outside of what your academics say about you and outside of what your extracurriculars say about you. And yeah, always reach out to us, because we're really happy to kind of engage with you guys. Wow, there's so many questions coming in. So the next question is, I attend a predominantly white tech academy and sometimes feel as though I don't belong in a school that wasn't made for me. Have any of you felt this way at Colgate, and how did you deal with these feelings? Are there mental health services on campus?
I feel like I touched on this earlier, but yeah, definitely. I do feel that way at Colgate, especially like my freshman year. My roommate was a student athlete. She was white. I didn't really get along with her. So I had a disconnect. I didn't have like someone in my space that I felt comfortable talking to, but I did go through like different organizations and meet different people that way and found my group that way. And there are mental health resources available on campus. We have the counseling center, which is free to all students, and they have a 24/7 hotline. So those resources are available.
So I'm going to try to combine a couple of these questions here because there's some similar themes. Do you feel like generally student voices are heard on campus regarding social injustice and social inequity, especially during this time regarding the death of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement and other activism movements on campus? And then in the same light, are students politically aware and active? And would you say that the campus is more left or right leaning? That's a lot, I know.
I would say, so actually, we actually just started this thing like this summer called the Colgate Student Coalition, and it's like 100 or something more student groups, and they all got together after the protest this summer just started to raise money for different bail funds. And I think that like even though that specific coalition has just started, like there's just a lot of different activist groups popping up in Colgate history as we learn more. Like there was like the Progressive Student Network. There was one group that held like a sit-in, I think like 4 years before Emily and I arrived, or 3 years.
I think it was 2014.
Yes, and we got there 2017.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and they were demanding like they had like a list of demands, including like hiring more faculty of color, giving students of color more support on campus, and they had a sit-in actually like in the admissions building, and like there's still like a bunch of documentation from that. And so I think that Colgate students definitely know how to make their demands heard and are pretty politically active. And I think that as of late, they've definitely been putting a lot more pressure on the institution. And like, so there was recently an incident where there was like an incoming student, and she had like posted something racist online, and a bunch of Colgate students found it, and they kind of would not leave the administration alone until they released a statement saying that her offer was rescinded. And Colgate also just like, I think a lot of times they unveil like diversity and equity plans, and students kind of like read through it, but they don't really feel like there's any tangible change. But they just released one recently, and it had like a lot more concrete plans, and like this is where different funding is going. It's going to different programs. So I think that Colgate students have done a lot better at pressuring the administration as of late, and I think that it's looking up, but I hope that it really is, but it seems like the school is paying a little more attention right now to students of color from my perspective.
That's a great answer. Is there anything else either of you want to add to that? Yeah, I don't.
Also, someone asked if the campus is more left-leaning or right-leaning.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know, because the circles that I occupy are pretty left-leaning, and I tend to, not that I don't leave my circle, but I think that there's just a lot of social issues that are very important to like me and whom I socialize with. So I kind of like don't really stray from like, if you don't agree with me on a certain human rights issue, I probably will not talk to you as much. There definitely still are conservative students on campus, and there was recently like a super conservative speaker who came to campus, and like people went to her talk, but then there was also a really huge protest at her talk. So I think you definitely have both sides there, but from my experience, I see a lot of left-leaning people.
Awesome. So the next question, we have a couple of questions just about financial aid on campus. How does Colgate help students financially? Talk more about the No Loan Initiative. I'll talk about that briefly, and then if any of you guys want to jump in, go for it. So as far as financial aid goes, when you apply to Colgate, and you're applying for financial aid, you indicate that as well. If you're a U.S. citizen, you'll submit your FAFSA, your free application for federal student aid, and your CSS profile. If you're a non-U.S. citizen, then you'll just submit your CSS profile. And then from that, we calculate your financial need. We are need aware, so we do, that is part of the application process. However, we do meet 100% of demonstrated financial need as well. And as Haley said, I like to think that we're pretty generous with financial aid as far as understanding human conditions and understanding sort of what everybody's going through, and that especially right now in this day and age where there's so many elements of unknown, we will work with you and your family to figure out what a financial aid package will look like based on not necessarily exactly what's on your FAFSA and CSS profile, and we will ask for additional documentation. The No Loan Initiative we came out with last year, and it essentially says that for families with a total combined income of up to $125,000 will not receive any loans on the financial aid package. It will only be grants and work study. So we'll still meet 100% of need, you just won't be having any loans. So that's something that we're really excited about, and is helping a lot of families as far as making college a lot more financially affordable. Is there anything that any of you guys want to add about financial aid and what you guys have gone through with financial aid? Great. The next question is very easy. What is the average class size? About 17 students. I think you can have classes that are 8 students. You could have a class that's maybe 50 to 60 students if it's more of an intro class. But generally, you're gonna, most of your first year class, I would say between like 17 and 25 or so. Would you guys like semi-agree with that? Yeah, okay, great. What do students on campus seem to value most? That's a good question. It's a tough one. Or I guess I could, if you want to think of it in a different way too. This wasn't my question, but I think I would think of it in the sense of like, what do you value most about being in a community like Colgate?
I mean, I feel like it's such a small campus, and you're kind of like in the middle, in a rural New York, and there's not very much opportunity that you can get away. Is like the community you build on that campus, and the people you meet, and the opportunities that, and the things that you can do on campus. So, yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, so this was a good lead in, Emily. There's another question about what's the surrounding area like, and just talk about the town of Hamilton. What's your guys' favorite thing to do in town? Do you go into town often? What's it like? I mean, hopefully everyone knows we're pretty rural. We like to consider ourselves rural and residential, and definitely embrace that. But what do you guys, what's that like for you guys?
I mean, I come from a big city, so it was an like adjustment. But I really like this little town of Hamilton, and I really regret not going to it more my freshman year, because there's just so many little like cafes, like the Library Cafe. I love going there for breakfast. And they have like the farmers market on the weekends, which is really nice. And it's and there's like the movie theater downtown. So it's just like a little small, nice community. It's small, but it's really nice to go out and just visit different shops there and talk to the community.
Anyone else want to talk about? Yeah.
I love Hamilton, and it's like the exact opposite of the Bronx. But I love going to the Hamilton movie theater. Sometimes Colgate will like buy out all the tickets for like a midnight showing, and so it'll just be like a bunch of Colgate people like going downtown, and all walking back up together. I love, there's a tree lighting in December, and like all of Hamilton is outside, and everyone has like food stand, and they just light up this huge tree on the Village Green, and the children's chorus comes from the school and they sing, and it's precious, and there's sometimes pony rides. I just like pretty much all the events, farmers market, anything downtown, I'm usually there.
I agree with you. I also love Hamilton. And none of us are forced to be in Hamilton by any means. So kind of transitioning back into the classroom, what about in the classroom? Are POC voices heard, taken to be on the behalf of their whole race? Is there a united consensus on POC? They're sorry if that didn't make sense, but how do you, I mean, Emily, you touched on this a little bit just in like the beginning of your career at Colgate, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but if any of you want to talk about what it's like to be in the classroom.
I mean, am I muted? No. Wait, am I muted?
No, you're not.
I mean, at first it was very hard for me to like gain that courage to talk in the classroom, but I do think that POC voices are heard in the classroom, and I, especially like in the different, like, I don't know, I feel like I've taken a lot of like more liberal leaning classes on campus, and I feel like especially in those settings, they are heard a lot. Like my challenges in modernity class I took, that was Professor Spires. I love that man. That class was fantastic. He like purposely made the class 50% white, 50% POC, and like the conversations you had because of that like split in the class were like really like they challenged people's ideas, and they were really interesting conversations.
Awesome. So this is a good question. Hopefully all of you guys will answer this one. What is the best thing about being a person of color on campus?
I guess it's like the community you make with other students of color. It's just kind of like you just kind of know everyone. And there's various different events that happen. Like if like LASSO's having like a dinner, they'll invite like other POC groups, and it's just a very nice community that is built through that like bond that is kind of made through being a POC in a predominantly white campus.
I definitely agree. There is never a dull moment. Someone is always having, well, not this year, but we did have some very fun parties. You will never go ashy. There's like you can pretty much contact anyone, be like, does anyone in the library have lotion? Anyone in this building have lotion? And you will find someone. You also always, like Emily said, you always have a friend. I could be walking literally from one building to the next, and it would take 20 minutes because I'll run into 5 people on the way and we'll always be talking. You definitely will always spot someone and have someone to talk to.
Yeah, just like adding on to that, like the community, like just being a BOC on campus, like you already have like a community going in. Like even though like you don't meet anyone, like first thing, like you're already gonna meet someone on the first day, and you're gonna already like have a best friend on the first day. That's just how it is, like being a POC on like you basically have like what do they call like a telepathic connection with someone already. Like, that's just how it is being a POC on campus.
So the next question is, how did you cope with culture shock coming into Colgate if you experienced it? You guys, some of you guys touched on it a little bit in the beginning. Is there anything else you guys have to add to that? No? Okay. We did touch on, oh, go ahead, Haley.
I was just gonna say, like from my experiences and also what it sounds like from what Emily and Danny said, it seems to really be finding like a community to put yourself in, because like the unfamiliarity of Colgate, at least for me, kind of was mitigated by like, okay, but at least I know Thursday nights at 7, I'm gonna be at Black Student Union, like I'm gonna be around people that like I know can relate to me and understand me. And so I think that was a really big part of helping like adjust.
So the next question is, how does Colgate ensure that BIPOC students adjust to the environment and school structure? That was in the chat, Haley, not in the Q&A.
I mean, I feel like OUS and First Gen do a lot of work in regards to that. They provide like a lot of like resources, like writing books, just being there for students and giving out advice, and especially like doing panels like these with like for incoming first years and upperclassmen to like, so you can build those connections with students.
And I think like coming from someone who was not in a program, I'm kind of I have a lot of friends who are in OUS and First Gen, and they kind of like invite me to all the events. But as a student outside of like some of the programs that Colgate has, I think that your friends in those programs and also a lot of older students kind of like make up for where like the institution might lack. Like I didn't have like I didn't like come to campus early or do some kind of program, but I had like students kind of like see me and they're like, I'm going to mentor you. And I was like, okay, thanks. So I think that whatever you don't find from Colgate, you do find from like other outlets in the community. Like I've had professors like be like, you're my unofficial advisee now. And I'm like, okay, thanks.
That's great. So this next question is a little bit long. So I heard in a video of a student of color at Colgate this year that there were classes on MLK Day. Did students speak out against that? Were they supported by administration? And how does Colgate celebrate Black History Month?
Do we have classes on MLK Day? Because I do not think I went, if we do.
I don't remember, honestly.
I was off campus. I have no idea.
I hope that we don't, because if so, I have not gone.
We did have classes on MLK Day. We did.
I actually definitely should know.
Haley didn't go.
I work in the cultural center. I can't believe we have classes. I don't remember any students speaking out about it because I feel like that would be something that would stick in my memory. I know that a lot of the programming for MLK Day goes through the Alana Cultural Center where I work. And so that was a month long of different programming. So there was like every week in like 2 weeks, when we got back to campus, because we had just come back from break, there was programming for about a month. And there was maybe something happening every week. There was like dinner and talk, different like documentary screenings, different events, panels, things like that, all relating to MLK Day and his legacy. And then I also had an event during that time. And then the keynote was Opal Timeti, who was one of the key organizers for Black Lives Matter. And she came and we had like a panel with her in the chapel, and a lot of students came to listen to that. And so that's how we celebrated this year. And then as far as Black History Month goes, most of that programming also goes through Alana. So then it kind of continued, and we did a lot of different, like I said, educational events, talks, like sponsoring with like different clubs throughout the month of February as well. And Black Student Union also does a lot of stuff. So like first day of February is do-rag day. Everyone wears like their do-rag and their bonnet, and then they have a bunch of events. There's like a brunch where all the BSU students got together. So most of that stuff goes through the Cultural Center and some of the clubs.
Awesome. So I think we kind of answered this, but maybe there's additional information you guys can provide. In Legacies of the Ancient World and other core curriculum courses, how balances the treatment between Western and non-Western cultures? And did you feel that there was any value bias between these? That's a good question.
I'm going to speak on Legacies because my Legacies class sucked and focused a lot on Western texts and not at all on any other texts. I don't know the term. My brain doesn't work. And I think it's just those classes are taught by any professor in any department. So it really does vary on the professor you get for those specific classes. And there is supposed to be like a specific list of like things you're supposed to read, but I don't know what the list was my year that I took it, but it was just a lot of Western text, and I felt that really did a disservice to like my education for that class specifically. But like for modernity, I spoke on it with Spires. We did read a lot of different texts for that class.
Yeah, like Emily said, there's like a list of texts you're supposed to teach in that course. But I also think that just the list in general has a lot of Western text on it. Like it's Legacies of the Ancient World, and you really only get to focus on like some Asian cultures, a lot of European cultures, and that's it. I think it would be cool if we got to go to every continent and see what was going on at different times.
So the next question I'll probably take. The question is, does having an IB degree make you have a greater chance of getting into Colgate? What I will say about sort of just curriculum in general is that I mentioned in the beginning what my regional territories were, and all of our admission officers have regional territories, and we're very familiar with the schools from our regional territories. The reason we have territories that we work with is so that we get to know the schools very well, and we get to know the kind of curriculum at those schools. And we're never going to assess two applicants from completely different schools, even if they're down the block from each other. We're never going to compare them to each other. We're only looking to see that you at your high school and your situation have taken advantage of the highest level of curriculum that's offered to you. So if IB is offered at your high school and you've taken advantage of that and gotten the IB diploma, that's excellent. Of course, that's going to help your application. But if you're at a school that doesn't offer IB, we can't count that against you. Or if you're at a school that offers IB and maybe AP courses and you've decided to go with AP instead, we're going to want to know why you chose to go AP over IB and, kind of where that decision lies. But it's not going to count against you by any means. So that's just sort of how we look at curriculum and how we look at applications. We do spend between, 15 and 20 minutes on every application that we review. And there's always multiple sets of eyes that are on each application. So we're taking a look at every single part of it in a lot of depth, including your essays, as I mentioned earlier, and of course your curriculum as well. So hopefully that answers your question there. The next question is there any support for Asian students?
Just like we mentioned, like different, like the organizations that we're a part of specific to like our identities, there are different cultural clubs for Asian students. Like I'm on the mailing list for the Vietnamese student organization. And what's the equivalent of SORT for Asian students?
There's OASIS, Organization of Asian Sisters in Solidarity.
And so there are those various multicultural clubs on campus. And I think someone started a dumpling club like my fall semester. So there are different clubs as well.
And I just actually put in the chat a link to all of the clubs and organizations to our website. So go ahead and you can look on that and find literally all the clubs that are charter as of now. So we do have one more question left, and that question, there's more that are coming in. So the next question is, as a POC, do you feel separated from those who aren't POC?
From my experience, not really. like one of my closer friends on campus is white, and they're like I interact with a lot of like white students in my classes. So in that regards, not really. Obviously, there might be some layer of separation that other students go through, but in my experience, I never really experienced that.
So the next question is, well, I think we answered this already, but are multicultural and biracial people welcome at any club? I think the general answer is yes, it doesn't matter. But I think this is specifically relating to Black Student Union.
Yes, they are. Everyone is welcome at Black Student Union. We don't turn anyone away. And we have we have people come who aren't Black at all, and people who are half Black, however they identify. So you're definitely welcome regardless.
I've been to BSU.
And we love it.
So maybe now this is the last question. Oh, Danny, did you want to answer?
No, I was gonna say like I'm on the mailing list for BSU. I just haven't had time. I'm sorry.
Next year, this year. So the next question is Hamilton very diverse?
I don't know. I can't really speak to that because I feel like I don't know every single person in Hamilton. I think it's more white than anything else. But there are very like families of color that live in town.
Yeah, so Hamilton is definitely a college town in the sense that there's about 4,200 permanent residents of Hamilton, so year-round residents, and about 70% of our faculty live in town. One of the things that is really kind of happening right now is our third century plan. And as we kind of go into our third century of existence, part of the third century plan is, there's a lot of, that's part of it. One of that is the no loan policy, as well as creating more housing in town for faculty and staff to help keep more faculty and staff in town and help diversify it a little bit more. So last question we have is, are regional admission officers based on where you live or where you go to school? That's a really excellent question. Your regional admission officer is based on where you go to high school. So if you are from California, but you go to a boarding school in Massachusetts, then your regional admission officer would be in Massachusetts. And Massachusetts is a bad example because we split up Massachusetts. Yeah, just go on our website, or if you want, if it's easier for you, you can just email me too, and I can tell you who your regional admission officer is as well. Okay, so this is going to be the last question because, and Haley just put all of our information back in there. Thank you, Haley. We are running short on time. So the last question is, are microaggressions on campus swiftly dealt with, or is it swept under the rug?
I think that I don't have like a answer for everyone, because I think honestly the way that like people engage with microaggressions is very personal. Like I think sometimes if like something happens to me, sometimes I don't even realize it, so I won't even know to like tell someone or talk about it. But I think that when students do bring it to light, some of the instances that I've definitely seen people say that they didn't feel supported when they were trying to bring it up or to get action taken on it. But I also know that a lot of times when microaggressions do happen, there's like a lot of student rage behind it that kind of helps them get to where they need to go. But then also a lot of those proceedings are private. So like if a student does make a formal complaint because of some kind of microaggression, it's not likely that everyone would hear about it. But I think it varies. I think some students feel very supported when they bring it up, and I think some students don't feel supported, in all honesty.
Well, I want to thank all of our attendees for coming, and I want to especially thank our panelists for having this really open and honest conversation. This is a conversation that we don't want to stop. So if you guys do have any other questions, again, feel free to reach out to any of us. If you have other questions that come up or things that you want to address with any of the panelists, they're more than happy to have you reach out to them. This is obviously a very interesting time for all of us, but we're excited to have students back on campus in a few short weeks here. And, you know, if you guys haven't already, feel free to take our virtual tour online and participate in virtual information sessions. and just keep an eye out for other programming that we're going to be doing virtually this upcoming fall. So thank you guys again so much. I hope you all enjoy your evenings, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye, everyone.